Carly?
We could be iCarly.
I like how that's how it starts. We could be
I'm too
iCarly.
tired, old, or depressed to be anything as zany as iCarly.
Yeah, no, we're not iCarly. We're not that cool whatsoever.
Fake it till we make it, bitches.
Well, hello, guys, and welcome back to the Haunted Huddle Over Coffee. My name is Lauren.
I'm next.
And I'm T.
And oh my goodness, do we have a little bit of chaos for you today? This is going to be a little unhinged, I think. So what was it? The past week, we've had a Friday the 13th since the last time we recorded. Did anybody do anything cool for Friday the 13th or no?
I dealt with bullshit and drama after I came home from work. That was about it. Yeah.
I cried and then went to go see a kitten.
Well, didn't you get a kitten?
Got a kitten Saturday, not Friday the 13th, though.
How cool that would have been if you got a kitten on Friday the 13th.
No.
Then
we
you'd
did go
have
see-
to name him Jason.
Well, we saw the kitten, but he was just really skittish, and I would have loved to have taken him home. But we weren't sure how he was going to deal with Mocha, and Mocha's already a very, in your face, and he's skittish, and then we already have a skittish cat. Not a good combination. Not a good fit.
No, definitely not a good combination.
But the one we did get, even though he runs from Mocha when she does, the hard jerky movements, he fits in perfectly. In fact, he's being a little nuisance, so.
Just being a little bit of a nuisance?
He's a kitten, and I love him. I wouldn't, ever change my mind. Wherever he's at, he's probably behind the curtains waiting to attack.
The little ankle biter.
I just worked Friday the 13th. What else did I do on Friday the 13th? Did I do anything spooky? I got those cookies that have, the pumpkins in them, the pumpkins and the little ghosties. And I
the sugar
made
cookies?
Yeah, I bought a bunch of them. They're so good.
I don't think I've ever actually eaten those. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've gone 24 years without actually eating those cookies. You know, I've never actually had those. Also, hold on.
Alrighty, so let's get into our topic today. We're going to be talking about the lost colony of Roanoke.
You're being disruptive, Kenai.
So a little bit about the law before we get into the whole story and the background and a little bit about the colony. So essentially, it was one of the very first colonies that was established here in America, and they all just disappeared. Just poof. It wasn't even a tiny settlement either. It was a pretty large settlement of people that just disappeared.
There was 100 and something people.
It was 115 people that just completely disappeared out of nowhere. Nobody knows where they went or why they disappeared. So, here we go. Let's get nice and cozy, get our coffee, and enjoy. So the story of the lost colony of Roanoke is one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. It centers around a group of English settlers who vanished without a trace from Roanoke Island, what is now part of North Carolina, leaving behind only one cryptic clue. Some background. In the late 16th century, England was eager to establish a permanent settlement in the New World to expand its influence and compete against Spanish colonization efforts. Sir Walter Raleigh, or Riley, right? As they say it, Riley. Someone's going to correct me.
Mm-hmm.
An English explorer and courier, was granted a charter by Queen Elizabeth I to explore and colonize the land in North America. In 1585, Riley organized the first attempt to establish a colony on Roanoke Island. This initial effort failed due to the harsh conditions, food shortages, and tensions between the local Native American tribes. The settlers abandoned the colony and returned to England. So this wasn't the first time they tried to establish a colony on this island at all. Undeterred by the failure, Riley launched a second expedition in 1587. This time, the group included 115 settlers, among them women and children, indicating that they intended to establish a more permanent settlement. John White, a skilled artist and mapmaker, was appointed to be the governor of the new colony. The group arrived on Roanoke Island July 1587. Shortly after, White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, gave birth to Virginia Dare, the first English-born child in the New World. Soon the settlers encountered difficulties. They faced food shortages, and they strained relationships with the local Native American tribes to seek aid and additional supplies. The colonists persuaded John White to return to England. White was reluctant to leave his new family and the struggling colony, but he sailed back to England in late 1587 with the promise to return as soon as possible. White's return to Roanoke was delayed for 3 years due to the Anglo-Spanish War, which broke out in 1588. The conflict with the Spanish Armada required that all available ships were to defend England, making it impossible for White to secure a vessel to return to the colony. It wasn't until 1590 that White finally managed to return to Roanoke. When White arrived at Roanoke Island on August 18th, 1590, he found the entire settlement abandoned. There were no sign of the 115 settlers, including his daughter and granddaughter. The only clue left behind was the word Croatoan. That's Croatoan, carved into a wooden post of the fort, and the letters CRO carved into a tree nearby. There were no signs of struggle or any evidence of what happened to the settlers. Before White returned... Wow, where was I? Before White had returned... Where was I? Before had agreed that if they were forced to relocate during danger, they would carve a Maltese cross into the tree as a sign of distress. No cross was ever found, suggesting that the settlers might have left voluntarily. While interpreted Croatoan was now referred to as Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island. I'm probably very wrong about that. Located about 50 miles south of Roanoke. White wanted to sail to Croatoan in search of the colonists, but a storm damaged the ship, and the crew refused to go any further. Heartbroken, White had to return to England without ever discovering the fate of his family or other settlers. Archaeologists and historians have continued for their search to explain the evidence of the lost colony. Recent archaeological findings have uncovered that English artifacts on Hatteras Island and at the sites of the island, suggesting that some settlers might have lived amongst Native American tribes. However, no definitive evidence has ever been found to conclusively solve this mystery. The story of the colony of Roanoke remains an enigma, an imagination for generations, a haunting legacy, marked and carved by the word Croatoan. This continues to baffle historians, inspiring countless books, documentaries, and fictional retellings. The end.
The end.
The end. So I was looking up something when I was reading about this. The word Croatoan, from what I was reading, means where is it? I have it right here. I want to be able to cite it.
Council town, or like town
it means
talk.
It means town talk or like council in that language. It literally means like city meeting.
But that makes no sense for it to be carved anywhere if everyone's gone.
Well, we don't know if this was the Native Americans who have carved it or if it was the settlers. Like, we don't know what happened. Just 116 people after the granddaughter was born. You got to think more children must have been born in those 2 years. 3 years.
But what would be the point of Native Americans carving that anywhere?
I don't know.
That makes no sense. maybe the townspeople as to mark like where they'd have like a town meeting if there was no building yet.
That's the whole thing is we have no documents, we have nothing that tells us what
Well,
was
I
going
know
on.
we have nothing, but like that's the only thing I could think of, because saying that, oh well, the Native Americans did it, that makes no sense. Why would they carve a word that means like
nothing to them?
Yeah.
Well, something, but
Well,
there
not
was
really.
one theory I was reading about, and it's mostly like accepted, that like the people that came to the island actually like integrated with the Native American tribes. They just abandoned everything that they had and they just joined the tribes and like lived amongst the people that were already
But for
there.
what reason?
What reason? Why not? They know the land, they know how to make food, they know how to make clean drinking water, they know how to hunt. Most of these people probably don't know how to hunt.
Okay, but what would have been, I know that the colonists, they were having a famine, but at that point it's like, what could they possibly offer to the tribe? You've got like 100 and something people that don't know what the hell they're doing. That's like having 115 children.
They probably took pity on them. You gotta think, there's definitely more of these native people living on these lands.
But they've already had issues to a prior attempt to colonize with the same tribes.
Which is why I'm thinking in my head, like, why would these Native Americans want to be there? Like, is it possible that these people, these colonists decided, see you later, I'm not staying here?
The colonists were struggling just to be a colony. Since there's no records of what they were doing in attempts to fix any famine or build up resources, they could have been destroying the land around them.
Yeah. Thing is, yes, Dee.
It also looks like that there have been more archaeological sites, and like they found one in 2020 about 50 miles from Roanoke Island that had stuff that could have been from the lost colony. From what I'm seeing is they every now and then they find like after like a storm blows through, they find more stuff or belongings. And there was one project that they wanted to try to do, but it's really hard to get the DNA because it's 430 years old.
Yeah.
To see if they could find any living descendants, because you don't know. I feel like maybe it could have been like a thing that Native Americans helped these folks and they just integrated them into their society.
But then wouldn't you have found them? Like, not necessarily the ones on the island, but say that like the people in the colony, since there are like 100 and something of them, 116, we're roughballing it, they could have just divided themselves to see if like maybe the local tribes would be willing to help them, especially since, you know, their mayor has kind of like been gone for 3 years. They're going through famines, they're struggling.
One thing I think is probably very possible, and I was reading, is they call them Spaniards in here, so that's just the way I'm going to refer to them, because I think it was just a bunch of like Spanish.
It could be incorrect, don't attack us.
Yeah, please, it might be incorrect. If it is, please correct me and educate me. So we'll say, I'm not going to say the Spaniards because I don't want to be racist or insensitive.
You wouldn't be wrong because they're Spanish. They're from Spain.
Okay.
Therefore, Spaniards. It's not...
Okay.
Now, it would be a different story if you were calling a Mexican a Spaniard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then the Spaniards, people from Spain, they were also trying to establish colonies in America. It is very possible that maybe these people from Spain came over
and
captured and just took everybody and just took people. It's very possible it just took them. What?
That wouldn't be like out of the ordinary, because there is something about Roanoke colony being a haven for piracy, or there was a rumor, and they were trying to hide from the Spanish.
Hug me hearties. Shiver me timbers. Don't steal me biscuits and gravy.
I want biscuits and gravy.
I have really bad biscuits and gravy right now from IHOP in front of me. It's really gross, but I really wanted biscuits and gravy. So, beggars can't be choosers.
I don't know. I feel like there still would have been another reason if it weren't piracy.
Aliens.
Oh God! I
Aliens
knew
are
it was gonna
always
happen.
aliens
I
are
knew it.
always an acceptable theory. Always.
Only to
Aliens
Tony.
are always an acceptable theory.
I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting you to go. Well, it could have been aliens.
Not
It's
this
not
time.
Lauren.
But seriously though, think about it. There's no evidence. But the only thing that doesn't make sense though for the aliens thing is aliens, we're gonna say, are smart. How come only CRO was carved into the tree and then the whole word Croatoan was carved someplace else?
Well, maybe that was just supposed to be the whole word for whatever reason.
What that was like their first version? Like, what if that was somebody with undiagnosed ADHD and they forgot to write the rest of it? I did
So
that this morning with an email. I was supposed to email someone back. I
did not.
started, never
Forgot.
looked at it.
Gone. That is definitely a possibility. But you also, like, that tree also has been cut down. It's gone. Like, it was a thing and
That's
now it's
depressing.
not. Right? I would like to see the tree that says CRO.
People have taken
CRO
pictures of
tree.
it.
Tree carving.
Tree carving.
Yeah, it says
I heard that they cut it down, not that it just fucking disappeared.
No, the tree
Can you
got cut
imagine
down.
it fucking vanished?
That's the tree people, though. Anybody who's ever played Don't Starve Together knows what I mean when I say the tree people, the gigantic tree things that are giants and they just come alive and then
The
they chase
tree
you.
guards?
Yes, the tree guards. Just
The tree guards.
they beat me up.
You tree hugging hippie.
It's because you cut
Thank
down
you.
too many trees.
Well, I always play
It's
as
not
Woody.
a good thing, Lauren.
I like playing as Woody.
I don't know what's with you and this werebeaver bullshit.
I like the werebeaver.
I despise.
Well, now we know what kind of monster that Lauren is into, and it is apparently werebeavers.
No,
I don't think it's for the same aspect that you and I are into certain monsters.
No, I have read Fourth Wing, thank you.
There is no werebeaver in Fourth Wing.
I know, I'm trying to say that werebeavers aren't my thing.
You made it sound like you were trying to correct me. Like I was saying that you're not a monster fucker.
I grew up with Twilight. I shall forever be a vampire werewolf girly. Like a dragonborn.
You would fucking like a dragonborn.
Lord would do the dirge.
Dirge doesn't have wings.
He could.
Yeah.
He could.
Typically, if we're going canonically, not from the game being lazy with the models. But
okay. Okay, back to Roanoke. Humans.
We got segued.
We have to row back.
I like how we went from to aliens to Baldur's Gate.
Listen, even with thinking about even if aliens were a thing or like the people from Spain coming over and taking over, that all kind of makes sense.
The aliens make sense.
Alien does make sense. They all just poof and disappeared. Or they could have just tried to make a little makeshift boat. They kind of looked at the Native Americans and just been like, hey, you don't want us here. We don't want to be here either. Can you help us make some canoes or something? They made dugout canoes, and they made the ones where they would weave the sticks and stuff. They probably said, hey, help us get off this island. We don't want to be here. You don't want us here. And just move on. And then they get lost at sea forever.
There is one hypothesis. There is one hypothesis that they think they were thinking of moving to the Chesapeake Bay area. taking the Pennants and other small vessels to move everybody and leaving a couple just to wait for John White to come back. That is what David Beers Quinn believed.
Well, obviously nobody waited for White.
Or they all died.
Okay, but then where are their bodies?
A lot can
Scavengers
happen,
don't
like,
work that fast.
But we also have to
3
remember
years?
that, like,
Well, unless they died, like, really soon, what scavenger is going to take their bones? Like, any
You also
remnants of it.
if there was a hurricane that damaged the ship while it was coming over, what happens along the coast? We all live on the East Coast. What happens on the East Coast all the time and destroys everything?
Okay, but then
Hurricanes.
everything would have been destroyed. Nothing was destroyed.
Well, it's possible that the bones got swept up by the water.
But there would have been damage, Lauren.
It's like literally every single theory you could think of that would fix it. It's like, nope, because of this. It's like the Dovlov Pass all over again.
Like, you can't tell me there wouldn't be damage to structures or literally anything around it. Any low-lying shrubbery would have been fucking destroyed.
Unless it happened, like, very recently after he left. That shrubbery would have grown back.
Possibly.
I still think the integration with the Native Americans is probably the most likely.
That or the Spaniards.
Yeah. But
If the
aliens-
piracy rumor was indeed true. But if you're a struggling colony, why on God's green earth would you hide there?
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna say, like, there is, like, the whole Spanish attack thing, because they do have Spanish records about Walter and his colonies.
Walter?
Who is Walter?
Walter Raleigh.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, they knew of English plans for a new Virginia base in 1587, and they were searching for it before the colonists got there.
Okay, so obviously they didn't find it
No,
when it was colonized.
but they also attacked another colony, Fort Caroline, in 1565. So, like, the colonists knew that these people were obviously, like, the Spanish were threatening English regardless.
When weren't the Spanish and the English threatening one another during this time period?
What if they just took... Okay, so... But no
They
bodies
both
were...
follow God's manifest destiny.
Goodness.
That's America. And that doesn't happen for another 300 years.
It's manifest destiny for the ocean.
Manifest destiny for the ocean.
For the ocean. No, manifest destiny is God's given right for the Americans to expand west. Holy crap, I paid
There is no
attention.
God-given right to expand anywhere. We don't...
Nobody has a God-given right. I don't
Yeah.
have a God-given right. If I had a God-given right, I'd be rich right now. But that is not the case.
I don't want to know why you're referring to it that way. I don't want to know. I'm scared to know.
I have an unpopular supernatural opinion of what might happen. That isn't aliens.
Oh, but even the Spanish were unaware of
Aliens.
what... No, but even... I don't know, I think this is kind of, like, redundant of the Spanish. But, like, they continued to look for this colony for another 20-something, like, 13 years.
Once it was already lost? Or...
Once it was lost, they have no idea what happened to it either. They were just trying to find
Spanish
it.
was like, I'll find it. We can find it.
But think about
The
it.
English are too stupid.
It's 115 people that just disappeared. It's like the Malaysia flight that they are still looking for.
Say unpopular.
The plane just kind of went, poof, bye.
Say it was land spirits and call it a day.
But where did the bodies go?
You don't know where half the people that the land spirits, let alone the Fae, go, so...
Well,
This is very true.
there's also apparently, like, they found inscribed stones that were claimed to have been written by Eleanor Dare.
Runes.
They told the travelings of the colonists and their ultimate deaths. Terrified. Oh,
Where
I was
are you
looking at the
finding
Wikipedia. I
this?
was looking at the Wikipedia.
I hate that you say wiki.
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 Oh.
I think land spirits just fucking yeeted them. The famine was a warning. They just got sick and
I
tired
mean,
of being sick and tired.
if you think about it, right, it could be like the whole like Donner Party incident, right? Where like you had 115 people, and if they're getting hit with famine, plague, all sorts of shit, like, right? And they were struggling to hunt, keep food on. What if they just started eating each other? Because that's what the
But
Donner
what about the
Party did.
bones? What about the bones?
Could have repurposed them for things.
I was gonna say, like, you can use bones. You can eat the marrow out of bones. You can use bones as tools if you sharpen them enough. Like,
They could have made soup.
on top of that, bones. So, you know how like fossilization works? You have to have like pressure and stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
chances are bones probably. You find human remains, but you don't find a lot of human remains. But
True.
depending on like where they're at, they could have easily just disintegrated. They could have been like ground up, part of the ground. They could have been swept out to the ocean. They're somewhere on the bottom of the ocean, which we can't really like.
Well, if they're on the bottom of the ocean, they're probably gone now.
The thing is, we don't even know, like, did they bring any animals over? Because, like, looking up, they don't have a lot of, like, vicious animals
So,
that are known to Roanoke Colony or to the Lost Colony. We see a
and I
little
don't think
bit of,
anything
like,
really that could like
beavers, fish. We
digest
see it.
bones.
Like, the most violent thing I've seen so far is beavers.
We're back on the werebeaver.
But that's even more like. That's even more to like they may have started eating each other, right?
Okay,
Because like if there's no animals to hunt,
and here's the thing. So
that would explain the word
decom-
Croatoan, like town talk, like who's gonna die next.
No, continue.
No, I'm being dead serious because Croatoan means town meeting or town talk. And so let's say they had everybody together and maybe those stones were actually like, hey, let's decide like who dies. And then we're gonna eat them. How dumb was I just right now?
Huh?
What? What's so funny? But wouldn't eating sick people just make people more sick? Like you wouldn't eat a tumor.
You would need a tumor.
I don't know. If you're desperate enough, you might eat a tumor.
I don't know.
Anyways, next. As you were saying.
What was I saying at this point? I don't fucking remember. I was trying to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just put myself in timeout.
What made it funny was just the sarcasm, and then it just went like, whoop.
I thought the long pause you made was because you realized it. No.
No.
So that's why I kind of laughed.
No ridges or lumps.
No valleys or bumps. Everything just slides right off.
Slides right off.
Okay, so what I was saying is that if we were going to go with Tony's idea of they essentially just fucking ate each other, there's a possibility. There are many things that you could use bones for. One, like you could use them for the tools. You could eat them. It'll take you a good long while, but you could.
The calcium, though. The calcium.
Those poor constipated motherfuckers. Anyway.
I don't think they were really worried about calcium back then.
Well, some of them would have needed it. Anyway, I digress. Even if they did bury people, it also depends on, like, one, the environment, obviously, but, like, the pH soil. Like, in neutral pH soil, it takes hundreds of years for bones to start decomposing. And they were technically, like, they would have technically been, like, a coastal colony, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And especially out to the ocean. So that would have exposed the bones to one salt water, which would have, I'm assuming, because I am not good at science whatsoever, I will not claim to be, I know about shiny rocks and spiritual meanings. That's all I got.
I like science.
So maybe tea can help. But obviously, those environmental things, such as the exposure to the salt water, would affect probably the soil type, which also might definitely lead to, not being able to grow a whole lot. Also, I don't know many, especially here on this coast, many animals that are like gonna willingly go that close to the ocean.
Uh,
Pigs.
I was gonna say, I lived in Florida, and we lived relatively close to the coast. We weren't like super close, but we were close, close enough to like go there. It was like maybe a 30-minute drive. But like down there, they had black bears, we had bobcats, armadillos, snakes. There's a
Oh,
lot of estuaries.
continue. I
So
found
What's
maybe
an
something.
like,
estuary?
so it's like a saltwater swamp. It's the best way I can put it. You get like kind of a briny water
That,
area,
that
but it's
sounds disgusting.
I didn't ever I didn't ever go into one, but like we fished next to one because that's where we could get like redfish. Anyways, I digress. But chances are in North Carolina, I know for a fact has black bears. I know they have
Can black
birds of
bears
all
eat
kinds.
bones?
I feel like they potentially could. I think they also have coyotes, but I might have to double check that.
I mean, obviously they could eat bones. I think bears can eat just about everything, but it's more so like, can their body digest it?
That's a good question. Or do they just chew them like dogs do? Where over time it wears down, and pretty sure they might have wool.
Bears can
There,
eat bones.
there are alligators.
That's true too. Alligators aren't just like a localized animal.
So bears actually have the jaw strength to like fully break a bone.
Hmm.
So they could have literally just chewed them up into nothing, and then 2-3 years later you come back and it's sand at that point.
And then also think about it this way too. They had a lot more forest than what we have today. The entire East Coast was entirely forested for like hundreds of miles.
So they would have had to constantly worry about local wildlife,
Hmm.
such as the bears and the coyotes and so on and so forth.
Foxes, opossums, raccoons. Like, it's not a completely barren thing. They also had, if you think about it like estuaries and, in saltwatery areas, they may have had like certain stuff like snakes and bull sharks.
That is possible.
Here's a very possible theory. What if they just lied? Like, it is very possible maybe these people were so happy where they were on Roanoke Island. They had integrated with the tribes there. They were finally living peacefully. They had it made. Like, life was good now for them. And when he came back, they're like, hey, listen, everything's fine. Everything's great. We don't want to be bothered again. Could you, like, tell them, like, hey, leave us alone? And instead they come up with this whole theory of like, hey, what if we tell everybody that you guys just vanished, and we help it to, like, start a war with like the Spanish, and nobody needs to know, and you and the native people living here, you guys can just live in peace, but just know you guys have about a year, because it took them a while to go across the Atlantic from down south, because North Carolina is not very close to England, and then to go back. So that he had to come here and go back, and then they would have to come back here to see if he was telling the truth. I probably would have given them about a year, and they all just disappeared then. And then they just like plotted out this whole elaborate thing. And they're like, oh, we'll put the word Croatoan somewhere. And then they realized, oh, we'll put it on the tray and we don't have enough space. And then they went, here, we'll put it here and said, this is enough space. And they're like, cool, but we'll leave this alone because like obviously we can't fix this. And they just like continue to live in peace with everybody. That would
But
explain the fact that
wouldn't they have been found eventually?
they could have just integrated with all the people so well that were already living there and adapted to their culture, their ideas, their premises, that And you gotta
I'm
think.
so sorry, but white English people look vastly different.
No, I understand that, but you gotta
After
think they're outside all day. They're gonna
but
start
also
adapting.
the
I'm
but
so sorry, but as somebody who has the fucking heritage, I do not tan well.
no, but they're kids. If they were to have kids, the genetics would mix. They'd like start to
Mm-hmm.
blend more in with native. Older white people get older, die. They either starve or, whatever,
Okay,
get
but
killed.
assuming that most of these people were the women that had children already, the children are going to grow up. It's only been 3 years.
Yeah, but now we gotta think. He had to
You
go
would
back,
have noticed, despite integration, it's
or
not
they
like
could have
they
just taken his
vanish
word on it.
or they like metamorph or what.
Because it says they come back, because he comes back again in 1987 is when he first gets there, and then he doesn't come back until like 1590. I said 1987. I meant 1587. But he comes back in 1590, and it's very possible that he's there, and they're just like, "Hey," and they're like, "No, we can't go back because remember the ship broke."
I'm so lost with what you're talking about right now.
Sorry, I mean like it is very possible that that people lie. It is a normal thing in human nature for people to lie. 100% normal. People lie every single day to keep their
Why
peace
would they lie?
because they were happy. It
With
is very
what?
possible. Living on the land with the Native
What are they
Americans, I really
lying
think
about?
that they're still there. They didn't want people to come there and bother them. They probably came to this colony to get away from everybody that was there.
I feel like that's normally not how these colonies work.
Historian, I have a friend who's like big on like colonial America before America was really America and all this kind of stuff. And they'll probably sit there and be like, Lauren, you're an idiot. And I'd be like, it's a theory. Do you got
No.
a better one? This is a totally different theory. Like, could
It's
it
a
be
theory.
possible?
It's a haunted theory.
Oh,
It's a hot take. And it's 100% a hot take. Like, it could be possible that these people just integrated in so well and they just hid from when he came back. They didn't want to deal with him. Like, if somebody abandoned you for 3 years, think about it. And they just come back to the island and they're like, hey, are you going to be like, hey,
if
nice to
somebody
see you
abandoned
again?
me by myself for 3 years, I'd have to kill them the minute they step foot on shore. But if I'm not by myself, be like, okay, well, what the fuck did you get? What took so long?
Yeah, you got to think they have no idea about the war.
There's no way you don't know about the war. If Spaniards are already freaking.
Well, that's the reason why he couldn't come back because of the Anglo-Saxon War. That's why he was
Okay,
gone for
but
3
them
years.
also saying that, like, Spaniards were there. If Spaniards could have taken them, the possibility of it means that they were there. They had colonies somewhere around.
So them being captured is probably like the most likely scenario.
Because there's no way you wouldn't have found out that there is a war. Because eventually, somebody trying to hunt a group of them from the colony, if they were trying to hunt, not only would they probably run into natives, which is the least of their worries at that point, assuming that they started getting along and stopped fighting, you're gonna see Spaniards. So if they're
So
close
they
enough
just
to be the possibility that they're literally coming after this colony just to be like, oh, fuck the English. Logically, they'd go to the closest colony to wherever the fuck they're planning this.
very, very true. Let's see, Croton is called Hatteras Island. Wow, that is a lot of people.
What?
So I was just looking at what the current population is for where Roanoke Island was. It looks like as according to the 2020 census, there is 100,011 people that live there. So it's probably not a tiny little island. It's probably huge.
Do you know what would be
Like,
funny?
what?
If they pulled like a Christopher Columbus and went to the completely wrong area.
Just we realized, oops, went to the wrong island. I don't want to look stupid. But that doesn't
after
explain
my
the
rant,
settlement.
no,
But
because
what about
after
the
my rant about
settlement?
Odysseus, like,
I wish
how do
that had happened while we were recording because she pulled up maps.
I did. I pulled up maps. Odysseus didn't know where he was going, and obviously men don't know where they're going because they wouldn't have gotten as fucking lost. And I still would have killed Eurylochus.
For anybody who
Like,
doesn't know what we're talking about, because I've had plenty of people ask me about this, we are talking about the Greek legend of the Odyssey, the writing of it. Which, if you do know, it is probably because you're a huge nerd like me, or because that musical albums has been coming out, Epic, which I'm sure most people have at least heard. Huh?
Well, people were forced to read the Odyssey when I was in school.
I was never forced to read it. I read it for entertainment, and my teachers looked at me like I was a psychopath.
I never got to read
Oedipus,
it in
though.
high school. Oh no, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Let's not go towards Oedipus.
See, now, I had to read Oedipus.
I did too.
Didn't get to read the Odyssey, or the Iliad for that matter.
I read the Iliad.
I read both of them. My sister got me the book that had both of them in it. I walked around high school with this big fucking brick of a book.
Anyways, I must say this. I wouldn't be surprised if they got lost, especially if a man was leading them, because let's be honest, every man in my life has not known where they were going. My dad included. That's how we got lost in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay, but that does not explain the fact that when they went back, and now to this day, when archaeologists and people have went there, they're still not finding any remains. And if all these people were dying when they were there because they were sick and starving, wouldn't they have found like some sort of remains at some point?
It goes back to what I was saying about just if the conditions were met right for the fossilization.
Perhaps.
Because alternatively, for if motherfucker, I will create a talking stick.
Sorry.
Swear to the gods. So essentially, alternatively from the pH soil, it obviously still consists of that. But also, if the soil is very dry and very fine, salty even, or like alkaline based, it makes it faster for them to undergo fossilization. And now, no one knows what the condition of the soils were back then. That wasn't a thing to test.
But only 300 years. In 3 years. 3 years, not 300. It's now been 300, almost 400 years, right?
But you're also looking at it in perspective.
It's 3
these
years.
People disappeared or like something. But the body decomposes within 3 years. Especially because it gets hot and humid, that decomposition happens a lot faster.
Bones too? In 3 years?
But if you're thinking of the wildlife that picks up the bones, carries them to God knows where, water washes up after a storm, everything would be misplaced. And they do find stuff. They can't like directly say like this is the lost colony stuff. Like I think they found something south of Roanoke where it was like some part of a sword.
Yeah, and they found some jewelry and stuff, like brass jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's like why I don't think the Spanish could have done it, or like the Spanish, like the people from Spain coming over could have done it, because if you're gonna kidnap people, you're gonna take all their valuables as well. In my personal opinion, like these are pirates that are coming. Like not all people from Spain are pirates. Let me make sure. Like there's a lot of like the pirating going on right now. You have the wars going on with Spain. Like, wouldn't you take all of their resources?
I was also reading about like they may have failed. They may have tried to return to England, which could also explain the disappearance.
Again, they could have died at sea. They wouldn't have had proper shipping, because I'm not gonna lie, a canoe's not gonna get you that far.
a canoe, and then all it would have taken was one bad storm.
Well, England to Roanoke, and obviously vice versa, is 3,000 and almost 800 miles.
And they may not have taken, from what I'm reading, they may not have taken the standard route because that would have put them like wide open, big red target on their back if a Spanish ship caught them.
Well, there was no. Literally, you would have been in the big open anyway. There's not space. All there is space. You're literally going to a different continent. I'm sorry. All there is fucking open ocean for the next 3,000 miles. Because, like, even if they had went up towards where Canada is, they probably still would have hit Spanish ships.
Even if they stayed close to the coast and went up towards, like, Maine,
they would have
and
still
Canada.
had to be an open ocean.
Yeah.
To get across.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, even if there's like microscopic islands there, it's not enough to hide you. Especially if there's 112 of you, or 116, I'm sorry, floating around in canoes. You're a little bit bigger than ducks and seagulls. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it wouldn't have been impossible, though. It wouldn't have been impossible because there were French settlers that built a very crude boat, and they successfully returned back to Europe.
From where?
From South Carolina, Paris Island.
Hey, my little brother was there for boot camp. Love you, Alex, if you're listening.
It's technically possible. Look, anything is possible if you just put determination and you're stubborn, like, you're just stubborn as hell. Anything is possible. And if you're desperate to get home, you will get home. Look at Odysseus.
Motherfucker got lost on a 300 like nautical mile trip. It shouldn't have taken 10 years. Especially since he went like literally past.
He made a circle.
But he went past Ithaca.
I know.
And then he had to make a circle. It's like when you first came up here and you missed my street like 5 times. We had to go all the way around.
Look, but I'm also not used to Long Island. My brain detaches from the magnetic field, and I have no sense of direction.
Obviously, he was not good at sailing, so he would have made it home faster if they had walked on foot.
Long Island's really easy. If you go north, you'll hit water. If you go south, you'll hit water. If you go east, you hit water. If you go west, you hit water before you hit the city. You're still going to hit water. Find out what body of water you are, and then turn around and go the other way. Even though we're not really an island, my sister's friend got told that,
she still got lost. And she was born here.
We've gotten lost on Long Island, being 5 minutes away from our houses.
No, we've gotten lost in Stony Brook.
Which is like 5 minutes away from our houses. You know how long it took me to realize that there was a taco, like a taqueria, like a taco restaurant, literally 2 blocks away from my house on Browns.
I didn't know that, so.
Yeah. No, but honestly, nobody really knows what happened. Aliens will always be a theory. Aliens are always a theory. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Go for it. I already know that just doing this podcast, everybody's going to hear how much I hate alien theories.
Aliens.
I love alien theories. I love how wacky they are. I love people who talk about their abduction experiences. And not everybody is probed in the butt.
I just hate that, like, something, you can't figure it out, people instantaneously, they're aliens!
But that's what makes it so much fun. It's like, you really think, like, people are, like, stupid that they can't, like, figure this stuff out on their own?
Yes. Nowadays, yes.
Look, I believe that there is some stuff that is just aliens. Look, I believe that there is some stuff that just could possibly be aliens. Not everything. But they're still fun theories.
Have you met the people of today? That there is so many stupid people. Like, stupid people. Like, there are people that believe during COVID they could inject themselves with Lysol. Yeah, that was a huge thing. We hoarded toilet paper during COVID.
See,
There's
now
a
I
lot
just
of
lived under
very
a rock during
stupid
COVID.
people.
It gave me the excuse of not socializing.
Let's
Like,
see.
no.
I swear to God, if you're
No.
looking up alien theories.
No, I was just gonna say 2020 and like 2021 were like weird years because I remember being like, we also had like the coup here and,
Oh,
in
yeah.
DC,
Oof.
and knowing like friends were like, yeah, we can't like go out. We're under a curfew.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other thing. Oh, boy. So,
That
wrapping
was
up
fun.
on oh yeah, wrapping up on all of our thoughts about what we think happened to the poor people living in the lost colony. Next, what's your take? Like final thought and theory, like submitted final paper.
I don't really have a final thought or theory.
Like if you had to pick one theory and stick to it.
I think most likely it was probably in Spanish.
They just came,
I'm
scooped
gonna
him up,
roll with
and
that.
ran.
Probably.
T,
Because
what do
let's
you
be
think?
honest, I doubt during that
Yeah, good
they
point.
really had any reason to keep them.
Well, unless they just like put them on their ship and just walk the plank. Did people really walk the plank?
Just push them overboard. Call it a day. Anyway,
T, what do you
tell me your
think?
thoughts.
I think I'm gonna go with like what the standard is. I think they may have just integrated with the native populations because let's be honest, they were starving, they were struggling, and their mayor didn't come back, and a tribe offered them refuge, or they started picking up that the tribe could help them out and survive. I think that's logical to say because chances are they weren't like the Puritans and they weren't like the Quakers. So like chances are they just wanted to survive and their best means of surviving was to assimilate. And I
I
don't think
agree
that's
with.
a bad theory. I don't think it's a bad theory. I think it's a very nice ending. At least if those people lived, their children lived. We don't know, but that's what I like to think.
I'm on board with T. Like besides obviously like aliens, that's always gonna be my theory. But I do think that they just integrated in with the Algonquin people that were living there, and they just were happy and they lived a long life, and they just integrated so well that they were just like, we're not gonna go back to where we were. This is better. This is more fun. Well, not more fun, but more. It's better to join in with them than to make them join us, kind of a thing. So yeah.
And think about it, they knew the land, they knew the wildlife, they knew what plants to eat, what plants not to eat.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that wraps us all up for today. So stay spooky. All right, I stay spooky.
I think Stay Spooky is big.
All right, so I'll probably get rid of all that stuff. So stay spooky, guys. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.